Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to one of our discipline dialogue sessions here. My name is Dr. Mark Schneider. I am the AVP of K-14 Academic Initiatives and Support for Ivy Tech. So I help on the dual credit side at a statewide level with course mapping and anything really on the academic side. Not so much enrollment and marketing, but just the academics of everything, the mechanics behind that I am involved with. Joining me today is Dr. Aaron Goodpaster. Aaron, I'll let you introduce yourself to the group before we get started.
Right. Good afternoon, everyone. Like Mark said, my name is Dr. Aaron Goodpaster. I am the Law and Physical Science Department Chair on the Muncie campus of Ivy Tech. I have sat on the K-14 Academic Advisory Council committee since its inception, 4 years ago now, something like that. Helped get us the NACEP accreditation that you heard about. I also did statewide training for our faculty members on dualenroll.com. So I'm familiar with how dual enroll works as well. And then that's about it. So I just kind of help with K-14. And of course, and I guess I should say my specialty is chemistry. I do have my doctorate is in chemistry. So that is the primary subject that I teach at Ivy Tech. However, I do supervise all life and physical sciences. So anatomy, biology, physics, chemistry, earth science, physical science, all that falls underneath my purview.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. Just for everyone's reference in the chat, before I hit the recording, I did talk about the free summer program. I put the website landing page, which has more information right there for anyone that wants to access it. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and kind of just jump into a few of our questions that we have. Aaron, considering the programs that you oversee, from your lens, both as an instructor and supervising dual credit instructors and supervising on-campus college faculty, are there any best practices or things that could be implemented hopefully fairly easily that you've seen really good success rates with in your courses?
Man, I don't know. I mean, the component with the science that is, I guess what I would say I hear is, I don't know, lacking is the right word, but as a challenge is the lab component for the dual credit classes. And a whole host of reasons, right? It's contact time with the students. It's not having the equipment, not having the space in a high school. But I guess just to stress that the lab component is actually very much an integral part of our science classes on campus. So of course, dual credit wise, that needs to be done as it's one reason why, for those of you that teach chemistry classes, you can't get 2 semesters worth of credit typically because there's not enough contact hours in semester between lab and lecture to actually allow you to do that, even though you cover more material. I understand that you cover the full year of chemistry, things like that. But that's one reason you can't do that typically. But I mean, really, it's just stressing the lab. The campuses are, from my experience, your individual campus that supports more than happy to share ideas with you, help you in any way if that is one of your issues. They'll be happy. Like I said, typically they're happy to share information and things like that with you. So that's kind of really where I guess it's always more engagement, using those types of things. I've had success personally with asking questions during class, which I know that sounds weird, but from a college perspective, having it interactive, that's really helped me personally. And here's the thing too, is I always tell people, I go, fully understand. My wife is a special ed teacher, so I've gotten a lot of my pedagogical training, I guess, if that's a word, from her. So I know you guys have been taught all that kind of stuff with engagement and things like that. Just a little tidbit here that I'm actually looking at myself right now is something that she told me about called universal design learning. I'm just brushing the surface with it, trying to figure out how I can actually implement that. And I'm sure that's not new to some of you who are teachers here. It was new to me though. So that's just kind of something that I'm focusing on, trying to get people to go in that.
Yeah, and as a former high school history teacher myself, I'm very familiar with UDL. And I will say, and you mentioning that, with your wife and some of your dual credit instructors, I do think one thing that the college could utilize a lot better is the pedagogical experience and expertise of our dual credit instructors. I think we have a lot of great on-campus faculty members with loads of content knowledge, but tapping into that in a way that students can best utilize it maybe is something that we could develop a little bit better, and our dual credit instructors are a great resource for that. So I always like to try to tell our program chairs whenever they're doing site visits, syllabi review, onboarding, all of those things, view this as a two-way street professional relationship, not just the college trying to, sometimes it can come across as talking down from on high to dual credit instructors, but use it as a way, as a resource to try to develop your own skills. Aaron does not do that. He does a really good job with everything, but something on the whole.
I tell my teachers on a site visit, I'm here simply looking at the content because you could probably teach me a whole host of other stuff. So I'm trying to actually take something from you that I observe in your classroom that I can actually use. But yeah.
And to answer the question in the chat about Physics 101 and 102 with the lab hours, and maybe Aaron can answer this a little bit more specific, but at least from my perspective, 101 and 102 for physics is a 4 credit hour class, and a 4 credit hour class in a semester is much easier done than a 5 credit hour class. Your contact hours, just generally speaking, take the number of credit hours that your course is and then times it by 16. So your typical 3 credit hour class, now sometimes labs can affect that a little bit, but like your typical 3 credit hour class on campus would be 48 hours of contact time. So that can be done pretty easily in a high school semester. But once you start getting up to 5, 5 credit hours, and then you're getting, whatever that works out to 80 or so contact hours. And if your class is meeting, like on a block schedule every other day for 90 minutes, doing that math to see if the course actually, meets all those requirements can be a little bit different.
Yeah, and I think we could, I think Ivy Tech can do a better job of talking individual schools as to how schedule's set up, because Physics 101 and 102 is a 4 contact hour class, so it's 64 hours in a semester. It's technically 2 lecture, 2 lab. And so once again, it's the issues that I see most of the time is where it comes with, that's where the issue comes in typically. So that doesn't mean there's not a there that it can be done in, but if you want it to check, I would say reach out to your individual campus and have that discussion with them to try to figure that out with the local campus and things like that.
Yep. Yeah. Local campus program chairs always should be your first go-to resource for any of those things. So once again, if you have any questions, feel free to put them into the chat or else come off mute and ask them out loud. With that being said, Aaron, is there any sort of now this is probably more of a question for the CTE courses that we offer, but maybe there's something I haven't heard of before. Are there any professional development opportunities for our dual credit instructors in these specific disciplines, whether they be on campus, something that maybe the faculty are doing at Ivy Tech, or maybe in some cases a third party being provided for it? Or maybe with these particular courses, just by the nature of them being liberal arts, that's not quite as pressing as other areas.
Yeah, not a whole lot. I would say the big thing is that I'm getting emails from various publishers about webinars that they're doing. Like I went to one about AI in the classroom, thing like that, and they aren't necessarily specifically on science. There's a couple of publishers that have some more science specific stuff. But for the most part, that's where I'm getting my webinars and stuff that I find interesting. It's just from publishers, and I don't know if school teachers are necessarily tuned into those or not. That seems to be something that's been a lot more common than it was a few years ago, even where, I get emails about a webinar over like microbiology. Of course, I don't attend that one, teach it. But the point is I've seen much more subject specific webinars from publishers where they bring in faculty members from other institutions and share their, I guess, what they've learned themselves and things like that. But as far as, yeah, we don't really have that professional development where you have to get, so many certificates to keep whatever in chemistry and things like that. So it's more or less just that type of stuff.
Um, kind of in the same vein, but a little bit different. Is there anything that is maybe a hot topic or a recent development in your field and in your disciplines that the instructor should be aware of? A lot of these sessions have kind of either directly or indirectly brought up AI, which we talk about for hours on end, and how that's disrupting for good and for bad different classroom settings. But beyond that, is there anything specific or anything with AI in general you'd want to mention?
So the one thing that I did actually put in the PD module that you guys, I believe, will have to still be for next year. The hot topic that I added was about a science company that I think most people know about it, but if you don't, then it's something to look into. It's called Vernier Science. They have wonderful, if you're a school that needs equipment for labs, and it can span anything, all the sciences, anatomy, physics, chemistry, everything. Vernier is a company to look into. They are very friendly to professors, very friendly with, and I say this, I don't say this lightly, they're cheap, but they're cheap when it comes to science. Like, for example, I'm not saying a high school is going to do this, but I actually purchased their gas chromatography piece of equipment for $3,000 instead of like $25,000. Now, obviously, it can't do everything that a typical full blown out GC can do, but the point is it's enough that it gets my students the experience with GC. They're all it says it's all student user friendly. Someone said that, which is true. So I just wanted to draw your attention to that, and that's why I put it as the hot topic. I know sometimes you may be getting a grant or something. I just encourage you to take a look at that if for some reason your school is allowing you to just some equipment. The cool thing is you buy it one site license and you can put every single computer in your school, the software. You can share a link for the students to download it onto a computer. Have lab manuals for $50 where once you buy that $50 lab manual, they send you Word files and you can edit any way that you would like. So it's a really, really good company to work with. I've had a lot of success with them. I'm actually using them, not a lot, but some in my chemistry classes and things like that. So that's the one thing I wanted to make sure that people knew were out there. You did mention new courses. We do have a couple of updates just as people sitting here. Like I said, we didn't introduce everyone, so I don't know what you teach. The objectives for anatomy and physiology, both 101 and 102, they will have drastic changes next year due to for your syllabus. I don't know that it's going to all the way you teach anything very much, but the syllabi or COR objectives will have to be they will have to be changed a ton. So there's that. And then also one of the changes that is not, you can't find Ivy Tech website yet, but fall of 2024, there is that if you teach Chem 105 or Chem 106, which it's mostly just Chem 105 is what you get credit for, that will actually turn into Chem 5. No objectives are changing, nothing is changing. It's to allow a little bit more clarity our chemistry sequence of classes at Ivy Tech. So those are the big changes. Like I said, anatomy objectives. And I've actually put this, if you've been on the PD, the second part 2 PD, these changes are going to be outlined in those as well. Well, you'll find them fairly easy. So, but that's really about the biggest changes in our stuff right now.
Yeah, and something I want to draw everyone's attention to, we haven't published them yet, and they are
No.
still in development. But the last few years, gosh, 3 or 4 years, we've just had a generic syllabi template out there for everyone. So whether you're teaching English composition or welding, everyone had the same template. We are working on a course by course dual credit syllabus template for every dual credit course. It's not a complete, just download this and turn it in, like you'll still have to put your name, your email address, those types of things. The calendar and the sequence of events will still have to be filled out, but some of the things that have caused issues in the past, like maybe a different grading scale, or leaving out like accidentally like a Title IX statement or, something like that, that can just be a little frustration and hang up. All of that it's going to be incorporated into that. So do keep that folder. We'll be publicizing it a lot more once everything is completed, but just keep that in your back pocket as you think about your syllabus that you turn in for your course or courses next year. That is still under development, but
Couple comments I'll have to that. First of all the ones are currently there. So if you teach any science, the new syllabus template for next year is already in that drive, and it has your appropriate course outline already on it, but that's really all it has. You have to add all the other information, and it has the standard statements as well, so you don't have to touch it. I will play with you from a department chair perspective who reviews the syllabi. I highly, that's 4 of them. If it encourage you to use that, it's it lives a lot easier, and then we don't have to come back and bug you constantly about XYZ things. So those new templates for you guys are there right now. So the link Mark shared, if you find your subject area, you will find a template for a respective class right now. If you wanted to get a jump next year, it's there.
Yeah. So thank you, Aaron, for your hard work on all the science ones that you've developed for our instructors. Real quick before we open it up to Q&A, is there any sort of OER resources that our instructors can utilize? I know you talked about, I forget, what was it, Veneer or
Vernier,
something
yeah.
like that,
Yep.
that can be done, but one thing that's been popping up a lot with our high schools here, especially since the last budget session ended with the General Assembly, is that there's a cap on textbook fees for high school, and that really impacts some courses more than others. And having any and all available free resources, which in some cases, the resources that can be found and provided are better than the traditional textbook options that are out there. But do you know of any sort of OER resources, website resources that our instructors could perhaps utilize?
The main thing that for OER that we've really learned about in sciences is just OpenStax, which I think probably a lot of you have heard of that. I will say this, 6 years ago when OER first was being mentioned, I would have said absolutely not, like no. I will admit that OpenStack has done some very good things, and they're better. Now you're not going to find an introductory chemistry book. It's going to be more of a general chemistry book. But at the same time, I think you can go in and edit OpenStacks as well. There's some other stuff out there that allows you to edit OpenStacks for a smaller fee. I don't know if they're in the high schools yet necessarily, but the company that I use for one of my books called Top Hat, where they actually have a relationship with OpenStacks where I could actually put in the OpenStacks textbook if I wanted to, and I could actually edit it and take out the stuff that wasn't appropriate for me. I know they have a physics book now. I believe they have an anatomy book now. I will defer to the experts in those fields whether or not they're actually good or not. But as far as chemistry, they have been improved over the last few years. I will tell you that there's now instructor resources there. There are some of the common stuff in OpenStacks now that you would find with your standard textbooks. That's probably the main one. Like I said, there's some other programs that you could look into that might be cheaper. There's one called Lumen Learning that they're not technically OER, but it might be cheaper than your standard publisher textbooks. But once again, I don't know how much the companies have gotten into the high schools yet. I think it's an area they will eventually, especially as dual credit becomes more and more popular across the nation. But so yeah, I said there might be some more cost effective, but it's free. OpenStax is really about the only one that I know of that's 100% free.
Okay. Um, so with that, those are kind of some of our talking points that we had planned out for everything. I do want to put in the chat again the Google survey or Google Sheet, whatever it is, Google form for everyone to fill out. There's a million Google things out there. Google form for you to fill out. So that way you can get that professional growth point for attendance today. Everyone always can use an extra professional growth point. So I'll put that in the chat here. And once again, don't forget about free summer, any and all high school classes that we have, or any and all college classes are available to high school students for free. One other thing to mention too, if you're looking for some part-time work over the summer, especially in the sciences, we usually have a big need to get new adjunct instructors. Reach out to your program chair that helps oversee your dual credit course. And if you're interested in teaching a class or two over the summer, in a lot of cases, it's virtual. So there's a lot of flexibility that goes into it. You can work, late at night after your kids go to bed or early in the morning or whatever, from a beach during the summer, any of that stuff. Reach out to your local program chair. I know of several dozen dual credit instructors from the last year or two that have done so and end up teaching around 2 course sections a semester for us and make some nice extra money on the side. By no means are you under any obligation to do that, but if you're interested in making a little bit of extra money, do keep that in the back of your mind, because oftentimes we are in search of good instructors, and we have a big audience right here and across the state with our 5,000 dual credit instructors.
And I will add to that please check with your chair first and teach an on-campus class first if the need is there. But I know Ivy Online is needing science instructors as well, and there's actually an open position that you can actually apply for that job on our Ivy Tech website. But definitely help out the local campus first. You'll get in the very good graces of a program chair.
So we would just keep that in the back of your mind. I think it's a win-win for everyone in those situations. All that being said, does anyone have any questions for Aaron or the whole group that they would like to ask? Okay, well, I have counted to 7 in my head, which is what I've told or always been told to do whenever you ask a question that's open. Hearing nothing before we log off, I do want to thank all of you for being dual credit instructors, especially our science dual credit instructors, one of the rarest groups in the entire state and most needed, especially for the Indiana College course. So thank you for all of that. But also just thank you in general for being a dual credit instructor. And in almost all of these cases, all of you are dual credit instructors out of the goodness of your heart. It's extra responsibilities that you have to do. You have to turn in a syllabus. You have to do a site visit. You have to do the professional development modules, all those things. And it's extra time and work that you do for free because you know of the benefit that it gives all of your students. And that says a lot about your character as a person and as a teacher. And it's really appreciated from the college and from the state for that matter, for all the different things that are going on that in one way or another touch upon dual credit. I do see a question, Aaron, in the chat that you could perhaps answer if you would answer that before we sign off.
Yeah, that's fine. So all I can't give a blanket yes, partly because obviously I'm not a subject matter expert. Ultimately, it was down to I know the chemistry OpenStax books have been quote unquote, I guess, approved through Ivy Tech's curriculum committee. And there's been several other ones. Ultimately, it would come down to having that conversation with your program chair, local one, who is the content expert. Like, I'm not going to, I would add, if someone wanted to use like the anatomy OpenStax textbook, I would have to go to my content expert who teaches anatomy, being like, hey, would this book be okay? I have not heard those discussions, so I can't make a blanket statement that yes, they're okay. I'm leaning towards probably 80 to 90 yes, but I don't want to talk for every discipline because yeah, I obviously don't teach all of them. And like when I first looked at the chemistry OpenStax books, like 6 years like that, I would have said no. But they've made changes that now where chemistry is concerned, I'm okay if someone uses that book. I can find that equivalent. So that's would be my recommendation, is just to go to your person and be like, hey, I'm thinking about using this book. Is it equivalent? Is it okay?
I think that's a good rule of thumb too, because generally what ends up happening is one time you make a blanket statement like that, then you find the exception really quickly. So does anyone have any other questions for the good of the group? Okay, well, I'm going to put in my my chat in the chat my name and email. Aaron, if you could do the same too, just in case anyone has any follow-up that they would like to do with us offline, they can do that. But if no one has any other questions, we'll go ahead and call it a day. And thank you all for coming, and let us know if there's anything we can do to help. Thanks a lot.